I'm sure you all have heard a book called To Kill a Mockingbird, but if you haven't, this is the right opportunity for you to learn and understand what the book really is. This book might seem like it came from a childhood adventure story, but the meaning behind this book is really deep. Harper Lee, the author, tried to portray how the society works in the States back then.
Harper Lee was implying how the Great Depression and the Jim Crow law really affects the society and how they lived poorly. If we really dive into the book and get the main idea of the story, it actually talks about the segregation of black people from the whites. Even though in the beginning of the story, it seemed like it was just some ordinary fictional books with kids running everywhere and trying new things and eventually get their risk of doing those stuff. Now we will jump into the story outline. Scott Finch lives with her brother, Jem, and their widowed father, Atticus, in the sleepy Alabama town of Macomb. Macomb is suffering through the Great Depression at that time in the 1920s to 1930s. But Atticus is a prominent lawyer, and the Finch family is reasonably well off in comparison to the rest of the society. One summer, Jem and Scott befriend a boy named Dale who has come to live in their neighborhood for the summer, and the trio acts out stories together. Eventually, Dale becomes fascinated with the spooky house on their street called the Radley House. The house is owned by Mr. Nathan Radley, whose brother Arthur, nicknamed Boo, has lived there for years without venturing outside. Scott and Jem was curious about everything, including about the society's hidden person, Boo Radley. They try to lure Boo out of it several times, and there's still no result.
Scout goes to the school for the first time in fall, and she dislikes it. But then, she and Jem find gifts that are apparently left from them in a knothole of a tree outside of the Radley's house. And the following summer, Dale came and visited them. Then Dale, Jem, and Scout start to act out the story of the Radley. Atticus was astonished at their antics and urging the children to see life from another person's perspective. But on Dale's last night in Macomb, the three of them sneak onto the Radley's place where Nathan Radley shoots at them. But the story is not just about kids playing around, but there's this one scene where it's the case of Tom Robinson and Mayella Ewald. And from here starts the real meaning of the book. And the previous chapters are just foreshadowing this case and how the society handles them. To the consternation of Macomb's white racist community, Atticus decided to defend a black man named Tom Robinson who has been accused of raping white women.
Tom was a black man being accused of raping Bob Ewell's daughter, Mayella. His case was handled by Atticus, and thanks for that, it has been brought to the court and taken a quite long time to have the final decision.
Back then, the blacks didn't have much justice, so by having the final decision took a little longer, indicates that Atticus is doing something to the society. And even though Tom's case was still not fair, at least the jury took some consideration to think about the case.
Atticus was appointed to defend Tom in the court, and he was treated terribly. Even Scott and Jem was getting mocked also by their surroundings. Scott and Jem have to tolerate a barrage of racial slurs and insults because of Atticus's role in the trial. During this time, Scott has a very difficult time restraining from physically fighting with other children, a tendency that gets her in trouble with her Aunt Alexandra and Uncle Jem. Even Jem, the older and more level-headed of the two, loses his temper a time or two, after responding to a neighbor's named Mrs. DeBoe's verbal attack by destroying her plants. Jem is sentenced to read to her every day after school for 1 month. Ultimately, Scott and Jem learn a powerful lesson about bravery from this woman. As the trial draws nearer, Aunt Alexandra comes to live with them under the guise of providing a feminine influence for Scott. The case involves a black man and a white man. Of course, back then, it was an obvious win for the whites. Bob Ewell felt that Atticus and the judge have made a fool out of him, and he vows for revenge. He menaces Tom Robinson's widow, tries to break into the judge's house, makes Helen uncomfortable because she is being followed, and finally attacks Jem and Scott as they walk home from a Halloween party.
In this book, we can see the effort of making a change in several peoples and Macomb. Not everything can be changed, and there will always still be people who will think that a change is needed. There are many arguments and incidents that happen after this because the difference of mindsets of people amongst the society. Can't imagine Gem's and Scout's position. It must be very hard for them to hear all the terrible things about Atticus, but then they still have to treat everyone with respect, even though the society looks down at them. Their childhood was nothing ordinary. Scott and Gem learned so much from the events that have happened, and that makes them different from the other kids in Makeup. I'm going to sum up the three most important aspects in To Kill a Mockingbird. The first of all, the title refers to the local belief, which is introduced early in the novel and referred to again later, that it is a sin to kill a mockingbird. Properly is subtly implying that the townspeople are responsible for killing Tom Robinson, and that doing was not so only unjust and immoral, but also sinful. The second novel, the events of To Kill a Mockingbird take place while Scott Finch, the novel's narrator, is a young child. But the sophisticated vocabulary and sentence structure of the story indicate that Scout tells the story many years after the events described, when she has grown to adulthood. And last, To Kill a Mockingbird is unusual because it is both an examination of racism and a bildungsroman within the framework of a coming-of-age story. Lee examines a very serious social problem. Lee seamlessly blends these two very different kinds of story. Probably that's all I could say, leaving out the spoilers, so you can enjoy it yourself. The best part of reading a book is when you explore through the character's eyes. This book will give you a point of view that you might not have. So grab yourself a To Kill a Mockingbird with some tea and start your reading.